Hello there, I'm Azaria Tagaya and you're watching Nightline. News making the headlines. No privileges or exemptions for wrongdoers in Islamic justice, decrees Yang di-Pertuan Agong. And Liz Truss elected as UK's third female premier. Good morning. Islamic justice does not give any privilege or exception to anyone who commits a wrongdoing, be it oneself, close friends, family members or parents. Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdul Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah said the principle of Islamic justice does not allow any form of injustice, including to those disliked, besides also upholding justice without favoritism that was practiced successfully and which raised the dignity of Islam during the time of the Prophet Muhammad. Officiating the opening of the Pahang Sharia court complex in Kuantan on Monday, Al-Sultan Abdullah said the principle of justice that is transparent also succeeds in developing a just, fair and prosperous society.
Prinsip keadilan menurut Islam adalah untuk menjunjung amanah Tuhan dan bukannya mewakili kuasa Tuhan. Justru kuasa menghukum dan memberi pengampunan tidak wajar digunakan sewenang-wenangnya kerana ianya bakal dipertanggungjawabkan kelak di hari kemudian.
His Majesty added that if the law is not implemented consistently and fairly, justice will certainly not be achieved, as the philosophy behind the enactment of the law would have been tainted, and as a result, the disadvantaged party would end up being victimized by those in power. In addition, His Majesty also reminded Sharia judges to ensure cases are handled fairly and for judgments not to be delayed, besides calling on court officials and Sharia lawyers to also facilitate the smooth running of court proceedings. The King also expressed hope that the concept of diyat, or financial compensation to the kin of victims, that he had proposed over the past few years can be studied and implemented in Pahang and the country in general. On the new court complex, Al-Sultan Abdullah hoped it would provide helpful services to the community, in addition to conveying and developing the teachings of Islam and improving the country's Sharia court institution. Construction of the court complex, officially named Complex Sharia Al-Sultan Abdullah, began on June 22, 2015 with a cost of 44.75 million ringgit and was completed on September 23, 2021. Also gracing the event were the Raja Permaisuri Agong, Tunku Hajah Aziza Aminah Maimunah Iskandaria, and the Regent of Pahang, Tengku Hassan Al-Ibrahim Alam Shah. Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob on Monday received a courtesy call from Singapore's visiting Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister Lawrence Wong at Perdana Putra in Putrajaya, as both countries continue to further cement their close relationship. This is Wong's maiden visit to Malaysia after being appointed as the island's republic's Deputy Prime Minister in June this year. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri, in an almost one-hour meeting which began at 5:30 p.m, congratulated Wong on his appointment, and both leaders reiterated their commitment to further strengthen the close and strong Malaysia-Singapore bilateral relations, including by exploring new areas of cooperation between both countries. Wong, who arrived in Malaysia on Sunday for a 4-day visit, is also scheduled to have an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Al-Sultan Abdul Riayatuddin Al-Mustafa Billah Shah at Istana Negara. Singapore is Malaysia's second largest export destination after China, with a value of $29.85 billion and also Malaysia's second largest import source after China, with imports amounting to $18.45 billion from January to July 2022. From January to December 2021, Singapore's investment in Malaysia amounted to $38.62 billion, while Malaysia's investment in Singapore totaled $25.41 billion for the same period. Bank Negara is expected to hike its overnight policy rate OPR by 25 basis points to 2.5% this week, which will be its third consecutive rate hike. According to Moody's Analytics, the move is aimed at helping ease the country's inflation, coupled with a robust economic rebound. It said Malaysia's headline consumer price index rose by 4.4% in July, a full percentage point increase from the previous month, as Malaysia's second quarter growth domestic product GDP came in far above expectations, driven by an uptick in demand for services after borders fully reopened in April. On the external front, raising the overnight policy rate will shore up the ringgit, which has been slipping against the greenback amidst aggressive rate hikes by the US Federal Reserve. The Bank Negara is scheduled for its September Monetary Policy Committee meeting on September 7th to 8th. This year's Sijil Pelajaran Malaysia Repeat Examination SPMU will be held from September 12th to 14th. It will involve a total of 7,720 candidates at 209 examination centres nationwide. The Malaysian Examination Syndicate, MES, via a statement by the Education Ministry on Monday, requested all candidates to refer to the examination timetable for information such as the date, time, code and examination paper, as well as for instructions. Candidates are also reminded to bring along identification documents and the examination registration statement to the examination centre. Candidates must also comply with the standard operating procedures and rules set out by the MES to ensure the smooth management of the examination. A total of 1,317 examiners have been appointed for the Bahasa Melayu oral test, while 1,441 people will be on duty for the Bahasa Melayu listening and written tests. The 2022 SPMU timetable and examination registration statement can be downloaded from the MES's website. The ASEAN Secretariat has been urged to buck up and have some sense of urgency in providing updates on the developments in Myanmar. Foreign Minister Datuk Sri Saifuddin Abdullah said he and his fellow ASEAN foreign ministers were only receiving reports on the situation in Myanmar from their own contacts through the international organizations and non-governmental organizations NGOs, but not from the ASEAN Secretariat itself.
I have requested that the Secretary General of ASEAN, among others, number one, to update foreign ministers on what is really happening. See, I'm not getting the report. I'm getting it through my own contacts. This cannot be. ASEAN Secretariat must have a sense of urgency to look at what is actually happening. There must be a full-time team working on the ASEAN conflict. Otherwise, people get killed.
He was speaking after visiting Rabania Educare, a school for Rohingya children in Kuala Lumpur on Monday. In the meantime, Datuk Sri Saifuddin said the Malaysian Foreign Ministry, with the cooperation of non-governmental organizations and activists, is coming up with a comprehensive status paper to ensure Rohingya refugee children in Malaysia get proper education. He stressed that Rohingya children from alternative learning centres, ALCs, whether run by their own community or NGOs, should have proper venues and teachers with certification. The minister added the comprehensive status paper will also identify the need for a proper certification for ALCs and training for the teachers who are part-timers and volunteers, besides looking at the resources and equipment at schools. Datuk Sri Saifuddin said there are 48 ALCs in Malaysia set up by NGOs that could support the education of only 30% of the refugee children. The bill on climate change, which will streamline the country's mitigation efforts, is expected to be finalised at the end of this year and will be tabled in Parliament next year. According to Environment and Water Minister Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim Tuan Man, the bill was an improvement over the relevant act to ensure sustainable development for the country.
Objektif undang-undang ini ialah untuk mengukuhkan institusi, menyelaraskan tindakan, memantau perkembangan dan memperkemaskan pelaporan data secara sistematik.
Speaking to reporters after the 2022 Climate Change Symposium in Kuala Lumpur on Monday, Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim said the issue of climate change was serious and has significant impact on the country's food supply. His ministry has also developed the legal framework last year, which had been presented to the Cabinet. In showing Malaysia's commitment to address climate change, Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim said Prime Minister Datuk Sri Ismail Sabri Yaakob would lead the country's delegation to the 2022 United Nations Climate Change Conference COP27 in Egypt in November. Other efforts included the drafting of the National Adaptation Plan, establishment of the Malaysian Climate Change Action Council MyCAC, increasing forest coverage, which Malaysia now stands at 55%, reducing solid waste and adopting a circular economy. Meanwhile, Datuk Sri Tuan Ibrahim said that his ministry estimates an allocation of 392 billion ringgit would be needed as a long-term solution to overcome the country's flood problems for the next 78 years. The cost estimate, among others, includes the main components of flood mitigation and urban drainage, amounting to 230.71 billion ringgit, and coastal infrastructure amounting to 126.55 billion ringgit.
Kesungguhan kerajaan dalam menangani isu perubahan iklim negara dizahirkan melalui satu pelaburan besar kepada sektor air negara diperuntukkan sebanyak 15 bilion ringgit secara off-budget untuk tempoh 8 tahun bermula tahun 2023 hingga 2030 bagi projek-projek tebatan dan penyelesaian banjir secara menyeluruh serta pembinaan struktur sabu di kawasan kritikal yang terjejas teruk akibat monsun laut.
He added that his ministry was committed to ensuring the well-being of the people through mid- and long-term measures, including development plans for infrastructure protection, particularly those involving water-related disasters. The Premium Visa Program, PVIP, has been a huge success, with the Home Ministry receiving 20,000 applications from agents on the first day of its launch on Thursday. Its Minister, Datuk Sri Hamzah Zainuddin, said for the first phase, the Ministry has set a limit of no more than 25,000 applications.
Responnya begitu baik. Fasa pertama, kita dah bersetuju, Kabinet bersetuju, RM200,000 untuk mereka membayar fees yang telah pun ditetapkan. Visa dia sebanyak RM200,000. Kalau ianya baik, mungkin kita pertingkatkan sedikit lagi. Maka sebab itulah saya nak buat mengikut fasa.
He was speaking after the Menyemai Kasih Rakyat Mekar program with the Siamese community at the Perlis Correctional Centre on Monday. The PVIP, which is similar to long-term residency visas such as the Golden Visa program in other countries like Thailand, Singapore and Portugal, was introduced by the Home Ministry to attract wealthy foreigners to invest in Malaysia and reside in the country for a period of 20 years. Participants of the program would also be given other benefits in the form of permission to study, permission to purchase real estate for residential, commercial or industrial purposes, as well as permission to work, carry out legal business activities and make active investments in permitted fields. The Court of Appeal on Monday rejected Baling MP Datuk Sri Abdul Aziz Abdul Rahim's bid to nullify his corruption and money laundering charges. A three-man panel held that the three corruption charges were not defective. The panel, comprising Justice Datuk Sri Kamaluddin Mat Said, Justice Datuk Abu Bakar Jais and Justice Datuk Cik Muhammad Ruzima Ghazali, however, partly allowed Datuk Sri Aziz's appeal to strike out four of the money laundering charges amounting to 12.9 million ringgit. The court also ordered Datuk Sri Aziz's trial to continue before the Sessions Court, which had fixed September 7th for mention. The former Tabung Haji chairman was appealing against a High Court decision made on March 12th last year, which dismissed his application to strike out the three corruption charges and 10 money laundering charges. Datuk Sri Aziz was charged in 2019 with accepting bribes amounting to 5.2 million ringgit in connection with road projects in Perak and Kedah. He also faces 10 counts of money laundering involving 13.9 million ringgit over funds from a company, Menuju Asas Sendirian Berhad. When we come back, Israeli army kills another Palestinian in West Bank raid. Stay with us. with news from the foreign front. Boris Johnson has urged on Monday for the Conservative Party to unite behind Liz Truss following her victory over Rishi Sunak in the Tory leadership contest. The outgoing Prime Minister congratulated Truss on her decisive win and said he believes she has the right plan to tackle the cost of living crisis. A number of other senior Tories, including David Cameron and Sunak, also echoed the call for the Conservative Party to heal its divisions after what has been a bruising leadership battle. Earlier, it was announced that Truss beat Sunak by 81,326 votes to 60,399, and she will formally become Britain's third female Prime Minister on Tuesday when Johnson departs Downing Street. The euphoria of victory, however, will quickly give way to the hard reality of the economic challenges ahead, with the country gripped by a cost of living crisis, leaving families struggling to pay their energy bills this winter.
Colleagues and all of those who helped on this campaign, I'm incredibly grateful.
In the meantime, Truss has said she will reveal plans to support households within a week of taking office, with allies understood to be discussing a $115 billion package that could include freezing energy bills. After winning the vote to be the next British Prime Minister, Truss also promised a bold plan to cut taxes and grow the economy, and said that she would deal with soaring energy bills as well as longer-term energy supply, but gave no further details on how she would do so.
But we all will deliver for our country. And I will make sure that we use all the fantastic talents of the Conservative Party, our brilliant members of Parliament and peers, our fantastic councillors, our MSs, our MSPs, all of our councillors and activists and members right across our country. Because, my friends, I know that we will deliver, we will deliver, and we will deliver. And we will deliver a great victory for the Conservative Party in 2024. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Significantly, Truss appeared to rule out a snap general election, telling the audience in central London that she would deliver a great victory for the Conservative Party in 2024. An emergency budget is also expected within the first month to set out how she will bolster the economy amid sustained low growth, soaring inflation, flatlining wages, and the very real prospect of recession. Israeli forces have significantly escalated the killing and repression of Palestinians in the occupied West Bank as another Palestinian has been killed by the Zionist regime on Monday. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 19-year-old Tahir Muhammad Zakarneh was killed in the village of Kabatia, south of Jenin, after being shot in the head and legs. It was reported that Zakarneh was alive when he was taken to hospital in the morning before succumbing to his injuries several hours later. A funeral procession was held for Zakarneh in Kabatia shortly after the killing. The Israeli army raids Palestinian towns on a near daily basis, often resulting in confrontations and the killing or wounding of Palestinian residents. So far, more than 140 Palestinians have been killed by Israeli forces in the occupied territories since the start of the year, including 49 during the recent three-day Israeli assault on the blockaded Gaza Strip.
12 pasukan berentap demi menjulang Piala Idaman. Kami bawakan kepada anda perlawanan tumpuan Liga Super 2022. Hanya di TV 9 dan Astro 149.
Moving on to sports now, tennis. The 2022 US Open, Nick Kyrgios booked his berth in the quarterfinals after he eliminated defending champion Daniil Medvedev in the fourth round. Kyrgios was at his best as he claimed a 7-6, 3-6, 6-3, 6-2 over world number one Medvedev in Arthur Ashe Stadium. This is the first time Kyrgios has reached the quarterfinals at Flushing Meadows. It also extends the recent run of high-level play for the 23rd seeded Kyrgios, a 27-year-old Australian who reached his first Grand Slam final at Wimbledon in July. Next for Kyrgios is a match-up on Tuesday against Karen Khachanov. The 27th seeded Khachanov reached his first US Open quarterfinals after beating 12th seed Pablo Carreño Busta in a 5-set thriller. Losing the first set 4-6, the Russian bounced back to take the next two sets 6-3, 6-1. Carreño Busta managed to steal the fourth set 6-4, but Khachanov proved to be too strong for Carreño Busta as he secured his spot in the last eight with a 6-3 win. In the women's event, Ons Jabir extended her career best run at Flushing Meadows by beating Veronika Kudermetova 7-6, 6-4 to reach the quarterfinals. The number 5 seeded Jabir was the runner-up at Wimbledon in July and now is into the quarterfinals at a major tournament for the fourth time. Jabir will face unseeded Ayla Tomljanovic for a semi-final berth. Tomljanovic reached her second straight Grand Slam quarterfinal as she beat Lyudmila Samsonova in straight sets. She claimed a 7-6, 6-1 win. Also in the quarters was Caroline Garcia. The 17th seeded French advanced to her maiden US Open quarterfinal following a 6-4, 6-1 victory over Alison Risk-Armitrage. Having sealed her first career victory at the fourth attempt, Garcia will face Coco Gauff in the last eight. The 12th seeded Gauff earlier beat Zhang Shuai for a second time this year, edging their fourth round encounter 7-5, 7-5, her first US Open quarterfinals. More to come after this breather. An accounts manager claims trial in 2.5 million ringgit CBT case. Don't go away. Welcome back. In Johor, an accounts manager pleaded not guilty in the Muar Sessions Court to 114 counts of breach of trust involving over 2.5 million ringgit between June 2017 and November 2019. 48-year-old Muhammad Rizal Muhammad Yassin entered the plea after the charges were read out to him before Judge Irwan Suainbon. He was charged with committing the offence at a furniture manufacturing company located at Kundang Ulu, Grisek, Tangkak, which was his workplace. The charge, framed under Section 408 of the Penal Code, provides a jail sentence of up to 14 years, whipping and a fine if convicted. The court allowed the accused bail of 1,000 ringgit on each count, which amounted to 114,000 ringgit, and set October 5th for remention. In Selangor, a raid on 2 warehouses on Jalan Semenyih in Kajang last week led to the arrest of 11 suspected diesel smugglers, as well as the seizure of more than 94,000 litres of fuel. State Police Chief Dato' Arjunaidi Mohamad said teams from the Crime Intelligence Unit of the State Criminal Investigation Department and the Bukit Aman Drone Unit of the Air Operations Team conducted surveillance before simultaneously raiding both premises on September 1st. Dato' Arjunaidi said preliminary checks showed that the syndicate would buy subsidised diesel from petrol stations using modified lorries and 4x4 trucks.
Bila penuh, dibawa ke sini, 2 tempat ni, sebelum dia dipindahkan ke dalam tangki simpanan. Yang saya katakan ada 3 tangki simpanan, sebelum dijual semula kepada pengusaha industri. Okay. Bermakna pihak industri akan membeli minyak diesel bersubsidi dengan harga yang lebih murah daripada harga industri tanpa subsidi lah.
He added that the syndicate has been operational for the last 3 months. It was reported that 8 modified vehicles comprising 7 bonded lorries and a Toyota Hilux, as well as 94,450 litres of diesel worth about 1.5 million ringgit were seized. In the 2 raids, police arrested 11 suspects, including 4 foreigners, all aged between 19 and 59. They comprised truck drivers and general workers at the premises. All those arrested were being remanded for 5 days to facilitate investigation by the Domestic Trade and Consumer Affairs Ministry. The case is being investigated under the Control of Supplies Act. Over in Italy, thousands attended the most historical event of the year in Venice, the Regata Storica, after a 2-year hiatus due to the COVID-19 pandemic. The most anticipated event is an occasion that celebrates one of the oldest traditions of the Venetian Republic, which is traditional rowing. Let's take a look at the regatta as we wrap up Nightline this time around. With that, I'm Azaria Tagaya. Thank you for watching and have a great week ahead.